You've heard of Sunni and Shia, but do you know why a disagreement over leadership after the Prophet became a division that still echoes today? You've seen headlines of conflicts between Sunni majority and Shia majority nations, but what beliefs and histories fuel these tensions? I'm Fakir Al-Kamosh. In this series, we'll journey from Karbala to contemporary geopolitics, exploring how theology, politics, and identity intertwined to create two vibrant, but often at odds, branches of Islam. Saqafa of Banu Sa'ida, 632 CE. Immediately after the Prophet's passing, Ansar elders gathered at Saqafa to decide leadership. Debate between supporting Abu Bakr, Muhajirun, or Sa'd ibn Ubadah, Ansar, set the stage for Sunni claims of community consensus, ijma, Abu Bakr's pledge. Abu Bakr was selected through limited consultation. He chose Umar and Uthman as successors. Sunnis view this as legitimate exercise of collective decision-making. Ali's position. Ali ibn Abi Talib, cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet, was in Hijaz when selections occurred. Shia argue that the Prophet had designated Ali at Ghadir Qum, a verse declaring, "Whomever I am Mawla of, Ali is his Mawla," implying spiritual and temporal authority. First Fitna and Battle of Siffin, 657 CE. Ali's caliphate faced revolt by Muawiyah over Uthman's murder. Arbitration at Siffin deepened fractures, leading to the Kharajite split and cementing Sunni emphasis on unity versus Shia focus on rightful authority. Was leadership by consensus or designation the Prophet's intended model? How did early political crises shape theological doctrines on authority? Can both concepts, shura, consultation, and wilaya, divine guardianship, coexist in Islamic governance? After the initial disputes over leadership, two distinct models of authority emerged, each defining the very essence of what it means to guide the Muslim community. Sunni model, caliphate through consultation. Sunni Muslims maintain that leadership should rest on shura, the process of mutual consultation and consensus. From the very first caliph, Abu Bakr, through successive rulers, authority was vested in a leader who met key criteria. He belonged to the Quraysh tribe, the Prophet's own lineage, ensuring cultural continuity. He demonstrated sound character and deep knowledge of the Quran and Sunnah. He had the capacity to uphold justice, defend the community, and oversee its welfare. Importantly, the caliph in Sunni thought is fallible, a servant of the law, not its perfect embodiment. His legitimacy derives from the community's backing, ijma, and his duty is to implement Islamic law as understood by the four main schools, Hanaf, Malik, Shafi, Hanbal, which draw on the Quran, authentic hadith, consensus and analogy, qiyas, to address new situations. Shia model, imamate by divine designation. In contrast, Shia Muslims hold that leadership is a divine trust conferred specifically on Ali ibn Abi Talib and his descendants. This doctrine of wilaya hinges on the Prophet's declaration at Ghadir Qum, "For whomever I am Mawla, Ali is his Mawla," which Shia exegetes interpret as God's explicit designation of Ali as the first imam. Key features include infallibility, isma. Each imam is seen as free from error, sin, and misguidance, tasked with preserving and elucidating the faith. Esoteric authority. Beyond the exoteric law, imams possess inner knowledge, ta'wil, allowing them to uncover the deeper universal meanings of Scripture. Usul al-fiqh. Shia jurists derive law from the Quran and Sunnah of the Al-Bayt, the Prophet's household, the consensus of these imams, and finally, reason, aql, which they regard as informed by the infallible guides. From this foundation arose the Twelver School, the majority Shia group, recognizing 12 successive imams, the last of whom, Muhammad al-Mahdi, entered occultation and will return to establish perfect justice. Beyond the core Sunni-Shia divide, Islam's history has seen a spectrum of movements, some driven by rigid literalism, others by mystical insight, all responding to questions of authority and purity. The Kharijites. Purity at any cost. Emerging during the arbitration crisis at Siffin, the Kharijites insisted that any ruler who committed a grave sin forfeited his right to lead and, alarmingly, could be declared an unbeliever. Their uncompromising stance led to cycles of violence and schism, influencing later extremist ideologies that weaponized takfir, excommunication, to justify political assassinations and terror. Sufi orders transcending sectarian boundaries. Sufism, Islamic mysticism, flourished across both Sunni and Shia worlds, with orders, Turuk, such as the Qadiriyya and Naqshbandiyya in Sunni lands, and the Ni'matullahiyya among Shia communities in Iran. Sufis seek the inner essence of the Quran through spiritual disciplines and allegorical interpretation, ta'wil, often emphasizing love, remembrance, dhikr, and direct experiential knowledge of God over doctrinal strictures. This mystical path frequently bridged sectarian divides, fostering shared devotion beyond legal debates. Shia sub-branches, Zaydis and Ismailis. Within Shia Islam itself, divergences arose over which line of Ali's descendants held legitimate claim. Zaydis, Fivers, centered in Yemen, recognize Zayd ibn Ali as imam and emphasize moral activism. Their jurisprudence closely mirrors Sunni Hanafi law, and they reject the doctrine of infallibility. Ismailis split after the sixth imam, focusing on esoteric teaching and centralized missionary networks. The Fatimid Caliphate in North Africa exemplified their political and cultural influence, commissioning grand cities like Cairo and fostering groundbreaking scholarship. Political Islam. Modern Hizbiyya movements. In the 20th and 21st centuries, both Sunni and Shia political movements have sought to fuse religious authority with state power. Sunni groups like the Muslim Brotherhood or Salafi activists vary in their approaches to democracy and shura, some embracing constitutional politics, others calling for strict implementation of Sharia by state decree. Shia movements, from Iran's 1979 revolution under the doctrine of Wilayat al-Faqih, guardianship of the jurist, to Hezbollah in Lebanon, integrate clerical authority into governance, arguing that only divinely guided jurists can ensure just rule. In 680 CE, the plains of Karbala became the crucible where theological conviction and political struggle fused into an enduring symbol of sacrifice. Hussein ibn Ali, grandson of the Prophet, refused allegiance to the Umayyad Caliph Yazid, citing the corrupt moral climate in Damascus. With only 72 companions and family members, Hussein faced an army of thousands, offered water for himself but denied to his children, culminating in his martyrdom on 10th Muharram, e-shūrā. Political roots, Umayyad legitimacy. Crisis. Yazid's accession broke the precedent of consultation, reinforcing Shia arguments that rightful leadership cannot rest on dynastic power alone. Refusal of bay'ah. Hussein's stand was both spiritual and legal. Bay'ah, pledge, in Islam must reflect justice and piety, not blind allegiance to a ruler's lineage. Theological dimensions, imamate as ultimate test. For Shia, Karbala enshrined the imam's role as spiritual exemplar, willing to suffer for truth. Hussein's suffering validated the imam's infallibility and divine mandate. Martyrdom doctrine. The concept of shahadat, martyrdom, evolved. Dying in defense of justice and faith became superior to ruling under corrupt conditions. Ritualization and memory, e-shūrā. Commemorations. Every year, millions reenact the tragic saga through passion plays, taziyah, lamentations and self-flagellation, reaffirming communal bonds and the imperative of resisting tyranny. Sunni perspectives. While Sunni Muslims honor Karbala's tragedy, most view ritual self-harm as bid'ah, innovation, preferring quiet remembrance and sermons emphasizing moral lessons over physical displays. Enduring legacy, cultural impact. Karbala's narrative informed Persian poetry, South Asian literature, and modern Middle Eastern art, portraying Hussein as the archetype of the oppressed standing firm. Political mobilization. Shia movements from the Safavids to contemporary Iran invoke Karbala's ethos to legitimize resistance, linking historical injustice to present-day struggles against oppression. Barely a decade after Karbala, the Battle of Marj Rahit, 684 CE, solidified Sunni political dominance in Syria. Pro-Umayyad tribesmen defeated al-Mukhtar's Shia-backed forces seeking to avenge Hussein, an outcome that shaped Sunni collective memory around unity and order. Historical context: al-Mukhtar's revolt. Claiming justice for Karbala, al-Mukhtar mobilized non-Arab, Mawal, and Shia supporters, challenging Umayyad rule. Tribal politics. The Syrian Qais-Yaman rivalry overshadowed sectarian sympathy. Sunni tribes rallied behind order over avenging martyrdom, cementing Umayyad power. Sunni identity formation, unity over sectarianism. Marj Rahit became emblematic of avoiding internecine conflict. Early Sunni scholars stressed the primacy of community cohesion, even if it meant overlooking the tragedy of Karbala for political stability. Defining orthodoxy. Victories like Marj Rahit underwrote Sunni claims of the rightly guided caliph's successors, promoting an orthodoxy that prioritized social order. Narrative framing. History versus hagiography. Sunni historiography downplays Shia martyr narratives, focusing instead on the dangers of rebellions that fracture the Ummah. Shia chroniclers, conversely, magnify Marj Rahit as a stain of betrayal. Modern repercussions. In contemporary Syria, echoes of Marj Rahit's tribal alliances influence sectarian alignments, underscoring how ancient battles continue to inform modern identities. In 861 CE, the Abbasid Caliph al-Mutawakkil's assassination and the subsequent siege of Samarra unleashed waves of sectarian violence. The once united Abbasid state, backed by Shia, Abbasid revolutionary zeal, fractured as Kilabi and other factions vied for power. Assassination politics, targeting. Shia. Al-Mutawakkil's brutal suppression of Shia rituals, banning e-shūrā mourning, provoked Shia backlashes, culminating in his murder allegedly orchestrated by Turkish guards sympathetic to Shia. Power vacuum. Competing military factions, Turkish, North African, Arab, turned Baghdad into a battleground, with civilians caught in the crossfire. Militant echoes, Kharijite resurgence. Groups adopting absolutist doctrines re-emerged, exploiting the chaos to assert takfur on both Sunni and Shia elites, foreshadowing later extremist movements. Institutional schism. The Abbasid Caliphate's fragmentation mirrored theological divides. Sunni jurists isolated from Shia legal centers in Kufa and Qom, embedding juridical separation. Legacy for modern militancy, sectarian militias. The pattern of state breakdown leading to sect-based militias finds echoes in post-2003 Iraq and 2011 Syria, where power vacuums enabled extremist groups to exploit Sunni-Shia tensions. Memory and Martyrdom. Both communities maintain annals of siege violence, Sunni narratives decrying Shia insurrection, Shia accounts memorializing persecution, fueling reciprocal fears in the present. Nearly 14 centuries after Karbala, Marj Rahit and Samara, Sunni Shia divisions, have morphed into state-level rivalries, proxy wars, and regional spheres of influence. Let's unpack the three most consequential arenas: Iran versus Saudi Arabia. Religious leadership. Iran's theocratic system centers on Shia clerical authority, Wilayat al-Faqih, exporting its revolutionary model via financial and military support to Shia communities across Lebanon, Iraq, Bahrain, and Yemen. Saudi Arabia, custodian of the two holy mosques, champions Sunni orthodoxy, often in its Salafi form, and counters Iranian influence through backing Sunni militias, religious scholarships, and an alliance of Gulf monarchies. Proxy conflicts. In Yemen, the Iran-aligned Houthi movement fights a Saudi-led coalition. In Lebanon, Hezbollah wields political power bolstered by Iranian arms. Both powers vie for patronage among smaller states, leaving civilians caught in sectarian crossfire. Economic and soft power. Beyond bullets, each uses oil revenues and religious tourism. Iran offers subsidized pilgrimage to Shia shrines. Saudi invested billions in Sunni seminaries and Waqf endowments. These investments shape clerical appointments, curricula, and community loyalties. Iraq, fractured sovereignty, post-2003. Vacuum. The fall of Saddam Hussein's Sunni-dominated regime unleashed sectarian reprisals. Shia political parties, once suppressed, rose to power with U.S. backing, provoking Sunni disenchantment and the rise of extremist groups, e.g., ISIS. Power-sharing struggles. Iraq's constitution mandates ethno-sectarian quotas. The president must be a Kurd, the prime minister a Shia, the speaker of parliament a Sunni. While designed for inclusion, this system entrenches communal identities and fuels corruption as leaders compete for spoils. Security dilemmas. Popular Mobilization Forces, PMF, an umbrella of mostly Shia militias, played a key role in defeating ISIS, but now operate with quasi-autonomy, sparking Sunni fears of Shia domination and Iranian proxy control. Syria, sectarian civil war. Assad regime's Alawite core, President Bashar al-Assad's minority Alawite sect, an offshoot of Shia thought, has ruled over a Sunni majority for decades. Protests in 2011 quickly assumed sectarian overtones, drawing in regional powers. Iran and Hezbollah defending Assad, Gulf states and Turkey backing Sunni rebels. Fragmentation and extremism. As the conflict splintered into multiple fronts, jihadist groups exploited Sunni grievances while Kurdish forces established semi-autonomous zones, further complicating Sunni-Shia narratives. Reconstruction rivalries. Today, reconstruction contracts and oil deals become instruments of influence. Russia, Iran, and Gulf states vie to shape Syria's future in line with their sectarian and strategic interests. Despite entrenched rivalries, scholars, activists, and civil society leaders are forging initiatives that transcend sectarian lines. Here are 4 promising models. Inter-Sectarian Councils of Ulama Muslim Council of Elders, 2004, convened senior Sunni, Shia, and Sufi scholars to issue joint fatwas denouncing extremism and affirming shared creed fundamentals. Their statements provide a unified religious reference to counter violent polemics. National reconciliation bodies. In Iraq and Lebanon, mixed-sect clerical councils have mediated disputes over shrines, endowments, and religious education, reducing flashpoints by coordinating pilgrimage schedules and jointly managing Waqf assets. Joint educational programs, integrated seminaries, institutions in Malaysia and Indonesia now enroll Sunni and Shia students in shared curricula on Quran, jurisprudence, and ethics, emphasizing maqasid, higher objectives, over sect-specific doctrines. Graduates praise the mutual respect these programs instill. Online platforms, websites offering dual narrative lessons, comparing Sunni and Shia exegeses side by side, help young Muslims see differences as complementary rather than conflicting. Cultural and artistic collaborations, interfaith festivals, events in Bosnia and Senegal bring participants from different Muslim traditions and even other faiths to share music, poetry, and communal meals, fostering person-to-person bonds that undercut propaganda. Shared commemorations. In parts of Iraq and Iran, local communities hold joint ceremonies marking the Prophet's birth and Ramadan iftars, blending ritual elements to highlight common heritage. Civil society and youth movements, peace brigades, volunteer groups of Sunni and Shia youths patrol neighborhoods during religious holidays to prevent sectarian attacks, distributing food and coordinating with security forces. Their social media campaigns, #BrothersInFaith, have reached millions. Grassroots dialogues. In Syria's Idlib and Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, remote villages hold Circle of Trust dialogues, pairing clergy with educators and trauma counselors to heal war wounds and rebuild cross-sect kinship. Can religious leaders relinquish exclusive claims to authority and model unity without erasing doctrinal integrity? How can educational and cultural programs scale without being co-opted by political agendas? Will youth-led initiatives sustain momentum in the face of regional power struggles? The Sunni-Shia divide does not exist in a vacuum. Major global powers have long leveraged sectarian identities to pursue strategic interests, sometimes exacerbating communal tensions for geopolitical gain. United States, Balancing Act Iraq Invasion, 2003. The U.S.-led overthrow of Saddam Hussein dismantled a Sunni-dominated regime, inadvertently empowering Shia political factions. Washington's support for Shia leaders in Baghdad fueled Sunni grievance and the emergence of ISIS as a reactionary force. Counterterrorism partnerships. In Syria and Yemen, the U.S. has provided arms and intelligence to predominantly Sunni rebel groups and Gulf-backed coalitions, often ignoring underlying sectarian grievances, undermining prospects for inclusive governance. Diplomatic posture. While officially promoting Iraq's unity or Syria's political transition, American policy has at times favored Sunni regimes, e.g. Saudi Arabia, for stability, sidelining Shia concerns in broader Middle East strategy. Russia, Alawite ally and anti-extremism, narrative intervention in Syria, 2015. Moscow deployed air power to defend the Assad regime, a minority Alawite government, framing its action as a fight against Sunni extremist groups. This boosted Iranian-Russian cooperation, reinforcing a Shia-Alawite axis against predominantly Sunni rebels. Sectarian messaging. Russian state media emphasizes threats posed by Takfiri militants to all religious minorities seeking to legitimize Assad's rule and maintain Russia's Mediterranean naval base at Tartus. Turkey, neo-Ottoman ambitions and Sunni solidarity. Support for Sunni Islamists. Ankara, under President Erdogan, has backed Sunni Islamist factions in Syria, e.g. Ahrar al-Sham, and Libya, Tripoli-based government of national accord, viewing them as heirs to Ottoman legacy and bulwark against Kurdish and Shia expansion. Refugee and aid policies. Turkey's provision of humanitarian and reconstruction aid in rebel-held Sunni areas fosters soft power, contrasting with Iranian support for Shia militias. Ankara's engagement frames the conflict as defense of Sunni fraternity. Iran, exporting the revolution, Hezbollah, and Houthi support, Tehran channels training, funding, and weapons to Shia militias in Lebanon and Yemen, framing it as defense of oppressed Shia communities. This network creates a contiguous axis of resistance, challenging U.S. and Saudi influence. Political Islam model. Iran promotes Wilayat al-Faqih as a viable theocratic alternative, offering ideological inspiration to Shia parties in Iraq, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, while simultaneously provoking Sunni suspicions of foreign meddling. Gulf monarchies, soft power and sectarian sponsorship, Saudi Arabia and UAE. Beyond military interventions, these states finance Sunni madaris, broadcast Salafi programming, and fund mosques across Africa and Asia, intended to counter Iranian clerical networks and build a global Sunni alliance. Qatar's mediation role. Hosting dialogues between Afghan Taliban and various factions, Doha brands itself as neutral, yet its own support for Muslim Brotherhood-affiliated groups draws criticism from Saudi and Emirati rivals. In the midst of external meddling, some scholars propose federal or confessional power sharing as a means to contain sectarian conflict and limit foreign influence. Iraqi federalism model, Kurdistan regional government. The 2005 Iraqi constitution enshrined Kurdish autonomy, creating a de facto third pole alongside Sunni and Shia regions. This model offers Sunnis and Shia the option to seek subnational control, though resource disputes, oil revenue, and militia rivalries complicate cohesion. Lebanese confessional system, 1926, National Pact and Taif. Accord, Lebanon's formula, assigns the presidency to a Maronite Christian, the prime minister to a Sunni Muslim, and the speaker to a Shia Muslim, aimed at balancing sectarian interests. While it has prevented outright civil war since 1990, critics argue it entrenches sectarian identities and fosters patronage networks. Syrian decentralization proposals. Autonomous regions. Kurdish-led administration in northeast Syria demonstrates a multi-ethnic, secular federal governance in practice, resisting both Assad and jihadi control. Some envision extending similar autonomy to Sunni and Alawite areas, creating plural federal units that reduce central regional friction. Pathways and pitfalls. Advantages. Federalism can mitigate zero-sum struggles for power by granting communities local self-rule and insulating them from foreign proxies. It may foster local accountability and reduce the perception of sectarian exclusion. Risks. Deepening territorial sectarian enclaves can harden social divisions, complicate national solidarity, and enable external actors to wield influence in their regions, perpetuating fragmentation rather than healing it. Can federal structures outflank external interventions by giving communities agency over their security and resources? Does institutionalizing sectarian identities in governance cure or perpetuate the core problem? How might hybrid models, regional autonomy under a neutral federal framework, balance unity and diversity? In the shadow of great power machinations and federal experiments, grassroots actors forge bonds that defy sectarian lines. Civil society organizations, religious leaders, and youth movements are crafting new narratives of unity and resilience. Interfaith councils and dialogue forums, Iraqi Women's Network. Bringing together Sunni and Shia women activists, this network holds workshops on human rights, legal literacy, and post-conflict trauma healing, demonstrating shared concerns over family well-being and justice. Moroccan Council for Religious Dialogue. Sultan-appointed ulama of different madhahib convene monthly to issue joint statements on extremism, gender equity, and environmental stewardship, modeling cooperation from the top down. Joint community service projects, Lebanon's reconciliation brigades, mixed Sunni-Shia youth teams organize blood drives, school renovations, and disaster relief. By working side by side, participants build personal bonds that transcend inherited hostilities. Syrian refugee camps. In Jordan and Turkey, NGOs employ both Sunni and Shia staff to distribute aid, ensuring impartial service and reducing suspicions that assistance is sect-targeted. Media collaboration, Voices of Unity. Podcast, co-hosted by a Sunni imam from Cairo and a Shia scholar from Qom, episodes explore commonalities in jurisprudence, history, and spirituality, garnering millions of downloads across the Arab world. Social media campaigns, hashtags like Do One Ummah and Brothers and Sisters trend on platforms featuring testimonies of intersect solidarity, countering extremist narratives with personal stories of friendship. Long-term unity depends on structural integration. Education, culture, and commerce can knit communities together beyond episodic dialogues. Integrated educational curricula, hybrid madrasa school models. In Malaysia and Indonesia, curriculum committees include Sunni and Shia scholars who design textbooks highlighting shared fiqh principles and joint history. Students graduate fluent in both traditions, prepared to collaborate in professional and civic spheres. University exchange programs, scholarships, enable students from Najaf and Karbala to study at Al-Azhar and vice versa, creating networks of future leaders with personal ties that cross sectarian divides. Cultural festivals and Arts Baghdad Peace Festival, annual event featuring Sunni maqam recitals and Shia marsiyat, elegies, followed by panel discussions on poetry's role in healing sectarian wounds. Attendees report renewed pride in a plural heritage. Documentary collaborations. Filmmakers from Sunni-majority Egypt and Shia-majority Iraq co-produce films on shared saints, transmogrifying sites like Najaf and Medina into symbols of joint patrimony. Economic cooperation and trade cross-sect SME networks. In Beirut and Baghdad, mixed ownership cooperatives of Sunni and Shia entrepreneurs invest in agriculture and crafts, sharing profits and management to build interdependence. Waqf endowment funds. Jointly managed Waqf board in Bahrain channels dividends to Sunni and Shia schools alike, institutionalizing cooperation and mutual benefit in religious philanthropy. In our digital era, virtual spaces can transcend borders and sectarian walls, fostering collaborative study of sacred texts. Unified online Madaris multi-sect instructors. Platforms like Al-Unity Academy host live-stream classes where Sunni and Shia scholars co-teach Quran, Hadith, and fiqh side by side. Students interact via chat, posing questions answered from both perspectives in real time. Certification pathways. Joint ijāzah programs award certificates endorsed by both Al-Azhar and Najaf seminaries, ensuring graduates carry dual recognition. Blockchain-backed Waqf and scholarship funds. Transparent endowments. The Unity Waqf chain records donor contributions and disbursements on a public ledger. Sunni and Shia trustees co-manage scholarships, with community voting on grant allocations, guaranteeing equitable support for mixed cohorts. Smart contracts for education, conditional release of funds, triggered by course completion or teaching hours, automates accountability, reducing bureaucratic delays that often plague traditional Waqf boards. Virtual reality, pilgrimages and study tours, VR Madina and Najaf. Visits. Immersive experiences allow learners to tour Prophet's Mosque and Imam Ali Shrine with guided commentary from both Sunni and Shia historians, highlighting shared heritage and divergent interpretations of key events. Interactive ritual simulations. Users perform virtual ziyarah, pilgrimage visits, under scholarly guidance, learning the etiquette and du'as from both traditions, building mutual respect before physical travel becomes possible. Cross-sect hackathons and innovation labs, Islamic tech jams. Hackathons bring together Sunni and Shia developers, designers, and theologians to prototype apps, such as DuaMate, a multilingual prayer assistant blending duas from both Madahib or Fiqh Fusion, an AI chatbot trained on dual-school fiqh datasets. Incubation grants. Winning teams receive micro-grants from inter-Waqf funds to scale projects that promote inclusive learning and worship tools. As virtual innovations accelerate, we must ask hard questions to ensure technology builds bridges, not new divides. Can code reflect conscience? Algorithms decide which lectures trend and which fatwas surface. How do we embed ethical guardrails, open source review, diverse training data, to prevent sectarian bias encoded into recommendation engines? Will smart Waqf sustain unity? Blockchain can ensure transparency, but will it foster genuine trust between communities? Or will technological opacity and literacy gaps create new suspicions? Does VR diminish the sacred? Virtual ziyarah offers access, yet can it capture the spiritual weight of physical pilgrimage? How do we balance accessibility with reverence? How do we code for compassion? In innovation labs, tech skills abound, but are empathy and theological nuance part of the curriculum? We must train developers to prioritize human dignity alongside technical prowess. Technology can unite our minds, but only conscience can unite our hearts. As we close our deep dive into Sunni-Shia dynamics, the promise of unity lies not in erasing differences, but in building shared structures, both online and offline, that honor diversity while strengthening communal bonds. Digital councils of Ummah unity, global e-shūrā platforms. Envision an online council where qualified Sunni and Shia scholars convene in real time, drafting joint fatwas on modern issues, AI ethics, climate change, women's rights, open to public live commentary. This transparent e-shūrā bridges madahib while modeling collective decision-making. Community voting mechanisms. Incorporate blockchain-based polling for lay Muslim input on non-doctrinal matters, charity priorities, educational curricula, giving every voice weight without compromising scholarly oversight. Shared sacred spaces in VR and AR, virtual multi-faith mosques. Using augmented reality, believers can select a shared 3D mosque environment where Sunni and Shia rituals, prayer times, recitations, commemorations are accessible side by side, fostering empathy by experiencing each other's practices in immersive detail. Interactive pilgrimage hubs. VR hubs link global participants in synchronized rituals, e-shūrā commemorations, Ramadan iftars, allowing real-time interaction across sectarian lines, reinforcing the concept of one ummah. Cross-madhab educational pathways, unified certification, joint ijāzah programs culminate in a Guardians of Light diploma, recognized by major centers in Cairo, Najaf, Qom, and Karbala. Graduates lead intersect study circles, ensuring the next generation learns through shared lenses. Open-source curriculum repositories digitally archive classical texts with parallel Sunni and Shia commentaries, indexed and searchable, enabling students to compare interpretations seamlessly. Collaborative Waqf and economic ecosystems. One Ummah Waqf Fund, a multinational endowment managed by Sunni and Shia trustees, funds joint projects, schools, clinics, environmental initiatives. Real-time reporting via mobile apps ensures donors see impact, strengthening trust across communities. Intersect micro-enterprise networks. Platforms like Ummah Trade enable co-investment in small businesses by partners of different sectarian backgrounds, with profit-sharing smart contracts that enforce fairness and transparency. Synthesis of conscience and code. Ethical AI for fiqh. Develop AI tools trained on dual-school jurisprudence with built-in conscience checks, requiring human scholar sign-off before issuing legal guidance. This blends the speed of technology with the sanctity of human oversight. Digital dhikr circles. Apps facilitate group remembrance sessions, led alternately by Sunni and Shia reciters, syncing devotional practices and reinforcing spiritual solidarity in a fragmented world. True unity is not uniformity, but harmony in diversity, woven by humility, guided by scholarship, and enlivened by shared purpose. Fakir al-Khamosh, thematic echo. Sunni and Shia identities run deep, forged in centuries of devotion, conflict, and wisdom. Yet the future beckons us toward collaboration, where digital innovation meets spiritual integrity and conscience outpaces convenience. Beyond polarization, embrace platforms that spotlight common creed, belief in one God, the Prophet's finality, the Quran's guidance, while allowing respectful discourse on leadership, law, and ritual. Responsibility of innovation. Every developer, scholar, and seeker must ask, does this tool unite us or pull us apart? Technology is a mirror of our intentions. Let it reflect the best of our faith. Invitation to act. Start small, host an online dialogue, join a mixed Madaris course, contribute to a shared Waqf fund. Each step echoes Karbala's lesson, standing together for justice, even in the face of division. I am Fakir al-Khamosh. May our collective journey forge bridges of understanding, and may our screens become windows to unity, not walls of separation.